It's 4:30. Who wants to start?
Yeah, the gavel.
Gavel. Do you need a gavel, Jack?
I can call to order the Princeton Public Utilities joint meeting here. On the public utilities side, let the record show that all are in attendance.
Okay, now I'll call to order the city council. All councilors are present. So we'll call the meeting to order on this side and we'll join in the Pledge of Allegiance. Rise if you're able.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do each of our agendas, I guess, separately. Oh, we are in order. Gotta do it. You want me to start?
You sure can.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Mr.
Novak.
Sorry. The agendas are actually, other than a minor change on our side, they're actually identical for both bodies. So Keith shared his and I just plugged ours in, except I did combine your last two together into one item so that we could use the same memo. So the agendas are identical on both parties. So
Both places gotta approve agendas?
I would assume so.
yes, probably. I'm gonna look at Keith.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's just completely correct.
Okay, I'll start here. Anybody have any additions in or deletions other than the minor change that Michelle indicated?
None.
Okay, need action?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries.
Public utilities side, any additions to the agenda?
No.
I'll entertain a motion then.
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show the agenda is approved.
Looks like we'll lead off with city attorney, Mr. Hammond.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. So I was asked to simply provide a general outline for both bodies as to, generally speaking, what the laws are that govern Public Utilities Commission and the relationship with the city. Most of those are found within Chapter 412 of the state statutes. I've gone through and provided some basic information. I'm just going to verbally touch on these. Anybody has any questions as we go through, feel free to jump on me and let me know. The primary statute that authorizes the municipality to own and operate public utilities is found in 412.321. That requires an action of the city council to actually enact that, and then sets up the process by which that can be done. The same statute also outlines the process for sale, lease, abandonment, things of that nature, which requires city council approval, public utilities commission approval, and action of the board. Now, from the city's perspective, at least the documentation that's been provided goes all the way back to I think it's 1911. There was a copy of minutes from a meeting and a resolution that I received that looks like the city did that back on March 16th of 1911. So that's how far back the overall Princeton Public Utilities Commission as an entity appears to have existed. Prior to that, it appears as though the city or the township back then, or the village, operated the then existing utilities. The next statute that's relevant is back up here, Minnesota statute
412.341
is the one that outlines the composition of the commission. You can, as outlined in the statute, you can have 3, 5, 7 board members. When it was enacted back in 1919, it appears as though that there were 3 commissioners It was a board that was established with 3 commissioners and has remained as such up until now. Recent change in the law does make it a little bit easier to change the composition of the board. Before, it was something that required a special legislative session. Now, depending on if you want to increase it or decrease it, can be done by administrative action and possibly action by the voting community. Next statute is 412-351. That's the statute that kind of outlines the overall jurisdiction of the Public Utilities Commission and what authority, what utilities are going to fall under the that of the Public Utilities Commission. Again, back in the enacting ordinance, looks like, I should back up. The statute itself authorizes the city or the utilities or the Public Utilities Commission to oversee city water, lights and power, gas, sanitary, storm sewers, public buildings, and district heating systems. I believe, if I recall correctly, the enactment way back in the day was limited to was water, electricity, and/or sewer, and then I think Michelle threw in a comment she was able to find reference that there was actually back in the day trash collection was also something that was under PUC's jurisdiction. Moving then on to Minnesota Statute 412-361. That's the statute that outlines all of the various statutory authorities that are abdicated to the planning or a Public Utilities Commission. Those include obviously entering into contracts that are necessary for the operation, hiring your own employees, overseeing your own employees, setting wages and benefits for your own employees, payments to the city in lieu of tax agreements and things of that nature, transfers of surplus funds to the general fund for the city, and other agreements that may be necessary with the city or other entities to continue your ongoing operation. There's nothing within that particular statute that specifically requires or mandates payments in lieu of taxes, although that is something that has been done over the years. I did make a note, though, for the city's consideration, just so it was aware, Minnesota Statute 216B.36 is a statute that outlines or gives a municipality the authority to impose taxes, fees, licensing, things of that nature. So, and I know that there are franchise fee agreements in place, and I think you guys have something in place probably in relation to that. Michelle put in a note there that back in 1975, there was an action to change the amount paid by the PUC to the city to $3,000 a month and move 10% of gross sales, and I think that's been the case until recent years anyway.
If I can,
Yep.
the minutes actually reflect it was just for that year. So post 1975 or pre 1975, we don't have the details as to kind of where things changed, how things changed. I've actually got Shauna, when she's done working, doing some stuff for the fire department, we're gonna do a very long document research from 1911 to 1975 to see, because the 1911 motion didn't have any, as near as I could read, and Keith actually was kind enough to share the information, there wasn't any payment documentation in those old 1911 minutes. So somewhere between 1911 and 1975, this 10% number came up, and so we need to do some work. So just letting the council and the commission know that we're just going to try to attempt to flesh out more of the data as we can. So.
Yeah, and there's a lot, and I'm sure it's all really old boxes. And then the last 3 provisions of the chapter that's relevant, 412-371 is a statute that requires the city to maintain separate accounts for any monies coming in or going out between the PUC and the city. 412-381 requires the regular reporting by your PUC accounting agent and requires that at least on an annual basis, a report be given to the city for informational purposes and obviously to include with the city's public information. And then the last one, 412391, is the statute that outlines the process for abolishment of public utilities or transfer to another entity, and what that process would be like, which includes, concurrence by the council, PUC, and then ultimately submission to the voters for action. And we dealt with that, I think, a few years ago. So those are all pretty much the basic statutes that are applicable. Obviously, things, depending on what aspects we're looking at, can bring into it different statutes and different case law. There's a lot of old AG opinions that give some direction as to the relationship between the PUC and the City Council, but I'm not writing a legal treatise, I'm writing a brief memo.
To that end, Damien, Michelle sent me your notes. Can I include that as part of our record as well? Okay, just wanted to make sure.
So that's it for me.
Anybody on the council side have any questions for Damien?
Just because of my maybe lack of familiarity with this, when it says having a separate fund for monies coming in and going out related to the utility, how is that documented on our end? Would I see that in like the annual budget in a certain spot? Or like how we have like the public safety section or the public works?
In the past, there was a line item on the revenue side for pilot payment.
Mm-hmm.
This year and in past years, the pilot payment, I've had the council actually document on the record where those funds should actually be moved to, so they're not necessarily going to be in the budget. As of right now, I don't budget for those dollars, because again, the PUC is not obligated, so I would prefer not to set our budget based on dollars.
Yeah.
So
I was just thinking like, I know it doesn't necessarily have to be a physically different fund or a different bank account necessarily, but are we in compliance with that? It's in our ordinance and in that statute.
correct. I mean, I think the ordinance needs to be slightly updated because I think there's implication that there's that we manage the water utility and some things. So we're gonna have to look at that particular ordinance. But in the case of the pilot payment, when it does come and you're taking action, it is showing up in the record. It's just not gonna show up necessarily in the regular general operating budget worksheets that you get, but it would show up in a fund balance based on wherever the council directed us to put those monies.
Yeah, outside of pilot though, is there transactions like use of buildings or use of a utility for like city hall or something like that?
The only thing that, the only other payments we received from the public utilities, well, two pieces. One is the current and future franchise fee. Those dollars will actually go into a separate fund. I'm working with ABDO to make sure that they are not commingled in an inappropriate fund. The last one went through the park dedication fund, so we have some cleanup and mop up that we need to do. And then the sewer amounts that they collect on our behalf for the use of the municipal sewer, those funds show up as a line item in the sewer enterprise fund. So I can't remember what it's called, but it's on the revenue side.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Damien, I have a question. Minnesota statute 412.361, number 4B. It says that it's talking about compensation for the use by either the commission or the city of buildings. Do you know if there's any other cities that the utilities use? And do they compensate the cities for that?
I don't know. I didn't look into surrounding communities that have the Public Utilities Commission, whether or not there's any payments or service in lieu thereof or things like that.
Yeah,
Let's
'cause
certainly
it's-
look into it.
Yeah, it says, which may include the following: compensation for the use by either the commission or the city of buildings.
Yeah, within the context of the statute, that's basically just there as an umbrella authority that the commission has with respect to that, whether or not there are surrounding communities or other cities and public utilities commissions where they have an actual specific agreement in place and what those dollar amounts are. That I don't know, unless we really ask two more communities that have those agreements. But
And-
certainly can.
And B would be, I guess, related to if we had a building that you rented, the commission rented space, or the commission had a building and we rented space, there would be some type of, the ability to have an agreement to define what those allowed uses are and what in exchange of compensation would be, is how I read that section.
Has the city in the past charged the utility for use of buildings or vice versa?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know that we have, I don't know that we have such situations. I mean, we have, there's been a discussion point on the fact that there's a number of PPU assets on land that's titled by the city,
Right.
in the city's name. And to my understanding, we have never charged anything for that particular situation. And in fact, those are other discussions that we've had in regards to how does the city divest itself of those lands? And there's been conversations about past who bought what and who paid for what, and is there information in the records to show that if the city funded those purchases, were they properly reimbursed? And that's kind of another whole topic for a different day.
Because I believe the big city building they're in is owned by the city, correct? The building that they office in?
Used to be the mill or whatever.
It's titled in the cities.
Yeah,
The real estate you're talking
the
about.
real estate,
Yeah,
yeah.
but the insurance and
Yeah,
all assessments
yeah.
and stuff have been to building.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the examples.
Mhm.
So,
I have a question. When the commission gives or pays the pilot money or anything, there's no restriction on them. They can spend that money anywhere they want, or the city can spend the money anywhere they want, right?
Well, but I guess I can't speak to what global limitations there
Maybe you know.
can't spend on anything, but there's not really.
well, my understanding is that in the past, up until 2020, I'm gonna screw up the date, the city counted on that pilot payment as part of the general operating budget of the city. So that meant it just went into the city coffers as a revenue, and they could spend it as they saw. As part of, it helped offset the potential levy increases. Subsequent to that, I believe the 23 payment, the commission, when it forwarded it over, requested that it be used for economic development. So we actually used it as part of the funding source for when we did the infrastructure in the new business park.
So the commission put a restriction.
They made a request. They did not restrict it. They made a request, and the council honored that request. Subsequent payments, so the 24 and 25 payments, I asked the council how they wanted to spend, where they wanted to put that money. So we actually moved that money into our park improvement fund.
So in that sense,
So-
there's no restriction.
Correct, there is no restriction, and as of right now, the council directs based on the recommendation of staff. We're working to build that park improvement fund because park dedication funds are restricted as to how we can spend them. Now, next year, the council might tell me something different. I don't know. My crystal ball doesn't go out that far. Yes.
And as far as paying rent and stuff, ain't that kind of just like charging your wife rent for space in the garage? I mean, we're all the same community
Well, we're all serving the same population.
population. Yeah.
I mean, other cities, and Keith and I have records and more formal agreements regarding pilot. Other municipalities and cities have opted to do things differently. So every city municipal utility relationship is different when it comes to how these payments work. Sometimes it's a value exchange for services. Sometimes it's cash payments. Short of us digging out the file and giving you a breakdown, and again, we've not done any research as to how the relationship for other municipalities work in terms of land and buildings and those types of things. So, I can speak from Elk River. I was there when we did an add-on to the City Hall out on Lake Orono. We built a wing for the municipal utilities because they were outgrowing their space in downtown. But I can't speak to the nitty-gritty of, if there's a long-term lease arrangement, condo the building or anything like that. I wasn't party to that. That was above my pay grade at the time. And so,
When you say formal agreement, is that what you and Keith have worked out? Is that like the council reviewed and approved the agreement, or?
we have brought agreements to this council. There's a memorandum of understanding.
Mhm.
And I'm looking to Keith because my brain is fried right now.
We have one for street lighting, one for wastewater billing, things like that.
We have one for Ed's time at the,
Yeah, shared service.
yeah.
So I think where I was going to go is, I know it's the prerogative of the utility to decide what and when pilot payments would be, but I was going to propose maybe when meetings like this occur, maybe like once a year, have that conversation so the council can like talk and have feedback and maybe have some input, even though it's the commission's prerogative to implement. Maybe that would be kind of more of a formal agreement on pilot, where like we meet and discuss. And if we ever have like larger projects we're wanting to work on in the future, maybe that would adjust it or things like that.
I think from what my understanding, the pilot's kind of based on the health of the commission too.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't have a very good year, hopefully we all on the same page.
Yeah.
That pilot's gonna be small. If we have a good year, well then the pilot can be bigger,
But then, God forbid I'm not communicating well when I bring something back as liaison. Folks might have more questions about how it works.
Yeah. Yep.
Or a different perspective than me.
That's the whole purpose of this, is to discuss any topics that
Could happen.
Yeah.
either of the council or commission have. So yeah,
But
that's
I'm sure
reasonable.
you should be able to know the mechanics of how we arrived to it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the pilot program was created back when it was created back in 1911 or whatever, is because if the city owns a municipal utility, they're not required to pay taxes, right? But if there was a private entity, say East Central Electric, Connexus, that kind of thing, they're required to pay taxes. So, and it's a lot of tax because they pay based on the value of their equipment and everything. So anyway, but the city has a lot of expenses, and so this is the utilities compensation to the city for not collecting taxes from a private energy company, and it helps to pay for police and fire and streets and all the things.
Yeah, it goes into your journal.
Roads, everything, yep. So that's why it was so important when the pilot was established, was because the city is out the tax revenue we would get from a private entity. That's why that pilot is important.
I would just point out that the pilot is more than just the cash transfer.
Mhm.
So, for example, there's, and it's not just Princeton, but it's a lot of communities. There's a lot of in-kind services that are provided.
Yeah,
by
we're
the
gonna get to
streetlight.
that.
But I'm just, I mean, all that needs to be included in the conversation.
I was gonna say, are we getting ahead of ourselves?
I think they're all kind of related, so we kind of keep
Well,
going.
but we have an agenda, we follow the agenda, so.
Well, we're getting a little ahead.
Anything else on Damien's presentation?
Does the?
We're getting a copy of that, you said?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've already provided it, I provided it earlier today to Keith, so. Is there, just from my perspective, is there any follow-up that you would like, I mean, other than the fact that I've already said that we're gonna do some ordinance work and try to figure out some stuff. Is there anything from Damien's information that you would like more information on that either Keith and or I can help with before we move on to the next item? I just want to be clear.
Can you just clarify for me, sorry, me again, of course, the utility may be obligated by any municipality to pay to the municipality fees to raise revenue or defray increased municipal costs.
Yeah, you're talking about the franchise fee statute, the 216, I presume.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, that's what I was trying to figure out, if that's specifically, that's because is the utility paying franchise fee?
That's a question I think is going to come up in the next.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any points of discussion from Damien's report, from our board?
We're ready to move on to the next item. 4.2, 2026 pilot report. Let's go through you guys.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I could take that. I did include in the packets a copy of the report, the pilot report issued by the Public Utilities to the city dated February 2nd, 2026. In it states that per the decision by the Princeton Public Utilities Commission on January of 2026, the utility is transferring $55,745 to the city of Princeton. That payment is based upon PPU meeting its financial goals in 2025 and a pilot rate of 1 mil or a tenth of a cent paid per kilowatt hour sold. So in 2025, we had energy sales totaling $55,745,000. At 1 mil, that's a payment of $55,745. In addition, PPU has provided numerous in-kind services to the city of Princeton in 2025. The Commission notes the following in the report. It's important to note that cash transfers are only a portion of the total pilot activity to the city. Other non-cash items include operation and maintenance of all street lighting and reduced costs for sewer billing. The value of these in-kind contributions is estimated to be approximately $172,000. It is important to note that this value does not include the depreciation of capital equipment necessary to provide the services listed. It is only an O&M valuation. Additionally, the utility paid the city $88,434.58 in franchise fees in 2025. And with the cash transfer, in total, the city will have received $316,000 in value, approximately 4.52% of electric revenues from utility ratepayers in 2025. PPU greatly values its partnership with the city and is looking forward to continuing that mutually beneficial and positive relationship into 2026. With that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Can we get a breakdown of the 172,000? What else?
Yeah, it's an approximation of, again, the expenses that we have on street lighting, the energy costs associated with that, and then.
And what is the, I'm looking for like dollar amounts.
Yeah, I don't have that with me. I can provide how I calculated it.
Okay.
It is a rough estimate. And it was something that has been shared with the city before. We were hoping to update those numbers as part of a rate study that we will be discussing later on as well,
Mhm.
to ensure that those numbers are.
So I texted you and left you a voicemail asking you to bring it to the meeting?
Yeah, you only texted that a couple hours ago. There was no time for me to pull that together in time for this meeting.
But if it's already been supplied to us, I would think that wouldn't be.
Again, it's in a spreadsheet. It is nothing that is publishable. It's not, I don't feel
But
comfortable.
it's on a spreadsheet? So it could have been printed and brought today, or?
Again, since we're presenting this as a public document, I would like the time to clean it up.
Okay. Yeah, I'm interested to see that, because if I remember right, one of the things that you had on there for the breakdown a couple years ago was $70,000 for the sewer billing.
Yeah, I don't remember the number, but yes, that was.
Yeah, and then can you tell me how you came to that conclusion?
Basically take a percentage of our billing overhead. So we do an allocation on our side for electric and water. Depending upon what it's for, you might allocate it based off revenues, you might base it off of the number of accounts, number of staff. There's a couple of different allocation methods you can use in budgeting. We then allocate stuff out to the sewer, and then since the sewer and the water pretty much are all the same customers, and they, in a lot of cases, the systems are almost connected. So the billings there, the number of customers match up, and therefore it would seem reasonable that the two utilities should each pay their share, which would be 50% of the water overhead.
Okay, but the way I look at it is $70,000 is like a full-time employee per year. $70,000 per year is a full-time employee salary.
Well, that wouldn't include overhead. Maybe from a salary perspective, but it would include equipment, insurance, just all the overhead that goes into it.
Okay, but what I'm saying, Keith, is if you have an accounting person who is entering that one line, the sewer, having to figure, it's based on the water number, so the math is easy, and they put in the sewer number, and then I'm guessing the template is already in place for the franchise fee. So really all that person is doing is entering the sewer amount on each bill each month, correct?
To your point, it's based off of all the water entries that we do every month. So it all feeds in together. I don't think you can ignore all the work that goes up until right when the calculation is made.
Well, when you figure in-kind donations, it's based on what your cost is. So what is your cost for that clerk to add that line in on the bill? It's not what our cost would be if we bought a system and paid an employee, and that's not how in-kind is figured out.
But I think you're minimizing the phone calls that my staff get on sewer. I think you're minimizing all the other work that goes into play.
Well, would you say it's full-time? It takes one person full-time 8 hours a day?
I don't know, but that's why I'm asking the city to do a rate study. I think that rate study will help answer that question in more detail for you. So I'm all in favor of that, but we have that later on as a conversation piece as to when and if the city's going to move forward with that effort, so we can answer those questions.
Okay, I just want to be sure when we're talking about in-kind work. So let's just say the city has a contractor who does in-kind work, and they donate, they put down asphalt out at Mark Park, okay? And they donate their time to do that. So they don't say to the city when they're going to get, credit for it or whatever. They say that the in-kind work that they get credit for is what their cost was to put it down, not what the cost would be for the city if we hired them to put it down. It's different.
My experiences with companies, they will write off on their taxes what the full market value of that work was.
And again, it's an agenda item for later, so we can give more detail.
Where?
Or 0.6.
It's the sewer study, it's item number
4.6.
4.6.
But I'm talking about the pilot memo and the talking about the in-kind work and how that dollar amount came to be.
But the two will interchange when we get to that item.
He explained it, you might not, that's his estimate. That's part of what it is, I think, so.
But
I mean,
I
we really,
think we should be able to see what is all included in it. And I don't know why it wasn't included in this to begin with, if it was previous.
well, again, in the
previously.
same way, in the same respect, we're gonna have a certain number of customer service calls we get, they're electric, that are water related, that are sewer related, and again, they don't tally every one of them exactly. You take a certain percentage and he doles it out based on the volume of business and the dollars that are involved. So
I mean, I
there's a
just
certain
wanna make
amount
sure it's
estimated
accurate. and
that
it would
goes
be
into
nice.
all, well, it's as accurate, we feel it's as accurate as we can be.
Okay, well, it would be nice to be transparent of what those costs are.
Well, he can, again, provide that spreadsheet like you asked.
Yeah, my next question is, the utility paid the city $88,434.58 in franchise fees. Can you explain to me what franchise fees you're referring to?
The franchise fee that is in city ordinance that is towards the utility.
I guess I'm not aware of the franchise fee.
Well, it's the same franchise fee that Connexus and Centerpoint is that same
Okay,
franchise fee.
and what is that based off of? Because
It's
it's
a-
never been explained to us that I know of.
The flat number,
So
$1.50.
it's so it was in the study session memo when Kevin and I explained how we're changing the franchise fee, so
Okay, so you're talking about the $1.50 that gets collected.
yes, it's $1.50, I don't remember the numbers, Counselor Gerald, but there's 3 levels of, I believe there's 3,
I have it.
thank you.
Residential is $1.50, small commercial $2.50, and large commercial industrial is $55.
Okay,
Yeah.
This is
perfect.
all, if I may, this is all delineated in ordinance number 772 entitled, "An ordinance implementing an electric service franchise fee on Princeton Public Utilities Commission for providing electric service within the city of Princeton."
But it's something that we implement and you're collecting for us by ordinance. By
No,
ordinance.
no. No, it is a franchise fee is on the utility for use of right-of-ways, for use of having utility infrastructure within the public purview. And it is calculated based on the number of residential, commercial, industrial counts. Now, a utility may choose to delineate that on the bill, but it is the utility that is responsible for it, and it can collect it in whatever means it feels it's necessary.
Okay, well, that explains why it's, okay, I get it now.
So it's the prerogative of the utility to pass the cost on to the ratepayer if they decide to.
The utility is required to pay the cost regardless. It
Right.
is the prerogative of the utility to be transparent so that people know what is going into their rate.
Sure, okay, so let me go back. The utility is paying the franchise fee, but what I'm saying is, if the utility wanted to, it wouldn't have to put that cost on to the ratepayer. But, I mean, for funding revenue purposes, being able to operate, the utility is putting that on the bill for each.
So the utility has no money other than what it collects through rates.
Mhm.
So if it wasn't delineated on the bill, it would have to be in the meter charge. And the meter charge would go up by that much. So it's whether or not we feel that it's important to be transparent to the community about where their money is going. So if the utility chose not to do it, they still have to pay that bill, so they have to collect
Right,
the
and you're
revenue.
putting it, that the charges are going towards the franchise fee, but so my question is, beyond how the regular rate is calculated for like electric, are you additionally putting on the franchise fee to recoup that cost that you're paying to the city? Or are you just putting in that from the rate, you're taking part of that and putting it to?
They're separate line items.
Sure, so, sorry, are you factoring the franchise fee in when you're calculating the rate? Or,
No, because
No,
then
it's
I'd be
separate.
double dipping.
well,
If we didn't have it delineated, then I would have to, but we don't do it that way.
sure, but it's, to my understanding, and I can look up the statute, it's the utility's prerogative whether or not to charge a ratepayer specifically for a franchise fee. separate from calculating a rate.
Understood, but like I mentioned before, our only revenue source is the ratepayer. I mean, it's gotta come from the ratepayer one way or another. The question becomes, do you wanna be transparent about it or not?
Okay.
I know what you're saying,
Yeah,
and I think
gonna-
we're on the same page.
I'm gonna agree to disagree
Mhm.
that I understand being transparent, but including that cost in the rate, or the total amount that a consumer is paying, it's the utility's prerogative whether or not to charge the consumer specifically just the franchise fee beyond the regular rate. Like if we didn't have a franchise fee,
I
you
think-
wouldn't be
I
charging.
think you're saying the same thing.
Yeah,
You're
Kind of.
just phrasing it different.
we're sniffing around each other. and
Yeah.
trying to get it.
Instead of charging the consumer, say 15 cents,
Yes.
we're charging them 10 cents and we're showing them the fee.
Mhm.
That's how we chose, or the commission has chosen they show the kilowatt rate and then they show the two fees. Then we take that fee money and we pay you for renting the space in public area to
That's
run our land.
Would you
Right.
be operating at a loss then if you're sending us money for the franchise fee, but not?
No, I'm taking it from the consumer
Okay, that's where I was
and
going, yeah.
paying it to you.
Right, the way it looks, and this is where it gets confusing, is we have a sewer line, and here's what we're charging the residents for sewer. You guys collect that, and you pay us. Now, we have a franchise fee, which is $1.50. It's right underneath, city, what does it say on our bill? City,
I haven't a clue, I don't have a bill handy.
well, it says this is the utility part
Oh.
of your bill, and this is the city's part of your bill.
Correct.
And under the city's part, it says franchise fee $1.50. So you collect that money and then you give it to us.
Yes.
Right.
But I don't understand your question.
Well, my question is, it's not any different than if that would be like you saying you pay the city for all the sewer money you bring in.
But the franchise fee ordinance is specifically on utilities for the use of the right of way. It's a fee for a purpose. A franchise fee is not just a general city tax. It is a specific charge against the utilities because we need to have equipment in the right of ways to build our infrastructure. So it's to pay for the city, for costs that the city incurs in managing those right of ways and easements.
So even if it wasn't this utility, if another utility serviced the city, you would still charge them the same fee.
Correct.
But then semantically, it's not a payment in lieu of tax and it's not an
No.
in-kind contribution.
The proceeds from the franchise fee benefit a city project. In this particular case, it was Trails, right? The one that's in place and that expired.
Correct, the one that expired or is soon to be expired or has expired. That was imposed in order to offset bond costs as opposed to increasing the debt service levy to cover the bond payments for the Riverside, Reedy, and Great Northern Trail improvements to the tune of $500,000.
And again, that's coming up at a later agenda item also.
And I guess I continue to take the perspective, and this is in the memo, that with the cash transfer of what the city has received from utility ratepayers, I mean, that ultimately all this money is coming from the ratepayers, and I think that's what's important to keep in mind.
But you have it listed as in-kind services at the top,
The pilot.
that it's included.
Yeah.
The franchise fees. You
Yep.
have that included under in-kind services.
Yep, and I have talked to many of my peers, and that's what they have told me that they do as well. Just saying. I have
That's
asked around about
interesting,
it.
because how is it an in-kind service?
Well,
For you to pay the franchise fee that you just said is what you're required to pay for right of easement, whatever.
so are you saying that I should have called it an in-kind service?
Yes.
What are you suggesting I should have called it?
Well, I don't know, but it's not an in-kind service.
Okay.
We can make that adjustment.
Yeah.
If this is,
Yeah, I
I feel like we're spending a lot of time on
Right,
something
talking this
that's, we're,
Well, I think we
meaningless.
need to be clear, we have a lot of new council members that are learning what's
Well,
going
we
on,
can
and I don't
clarify.
want them to think that that's an in-kind service when it's not.
we can make
That's
that,
all.
we make that, well,
I'd like things to be clear.
If you have a suggestion for some language, I would love to see it.
Oh, you can probably figure that out.
You're the one
Really?
you're the one bringing it up.
It should, but do it as a separate line item, it shouldn't be included in in-kind services, is what we're saying.
Okay.
Well, I
Anybody
think-
anybody have anything else? We're killing a lot of time here for,
Perhaps it's a service that the utility provides for the city.
Okay.
Yeah, I can, I mean, not to belabor the point, but I can understand, I think if the line that talked about the franchise fee was back indented the other direction, and it was clear that it technically isn't an in-kind, I think that would help.
Yeah.
I think
make that
some,
adjustment.
I think some of it just might be the way that it's formatted.
Mhm.
anybody else? You got anything, Nick?
Commission?
Nope. Well, let's move on to the next one then. That would be 4.4, Mr. Butcher.
4.3.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I got one.
Mr. Chair, members, in your packets, memorandum 26-18, the question was asked regarding the process of a service territory change in the state of Minnesota. So in Minnesota, I think it's important to note that utility service territories are under the jurisdiction of the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission. Electric utilities are each assigned a service area, aka service territory. And the purpose of this approach is to avoid duplicate electric infrastructure, promote efficient service, reduce unnecessary costs, and provide for long-term planning certainty. If anybody has ever seen pictures of India, as an example that comes to mind, where there are wires on top of wires on top of wires, you'll understand why we have service territories here to try to keep the right-of-ways as clean as possible. Adjustments to service territories can occur for both practical and operational reasons. Many of these changes are relatively small and negotiated cooperatively between the utilities. The general process is as follows. The utilities negotiate a proposed change. The agreement identifies the parcels affected, the existing infrastructure, compensation terms, and operational responsibilities. Any agreement is approved by the utilities governing boards. Upon successful completion of the negotiations and approval by the bodies, the utilities will submit a formal filing to the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission for approval. That filing will include such things as legal descriptions, GIS maps, and assigned agreements. Formal notifications are also sent to all impacted areas with information on how to participate in the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission hearing. If approved by the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission, they issue an order modifying the service territory map. For existing loads, engineering construction activities occur to switch supply from one area. Supply to the areas from one distribution territory to the other, and upon completion of all construction, the accounts are then transferred. I did provide an example to hopefully help explain this better. PPU and East Central Energy successfully completed a small service territory change in 2025 for parcels recently annexed by the city of Princeton. That process began in January of 2023. Negotiations continued through October of 2024, at which time a proposal was brought before both utility boards. Both ECE and the Commission approved the agreement in October of 2024. Customer notifications were mailed to all impacted customers in January of 2025. The utilities filed a joint petition in February of 2025, and it was placed on the Minnesota Public Utilities docket. No additional comments were filed, and the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission approved the service territory change on April 3rd, 2025. The utilities worked together to transfer the existing infrastructure and complete the switching of the areas from East Central Energy System to Princeton Public Utility System, and PPU began serving the areas on June 11th, 2025. So as you can see, even for a very small and simple service territory change, the process can easily take 2 to 3 years. Larger, more complex transitions would naturally take longer. So I hope that helps. I just, like I said, wanted to do a good overview of the process, and happy to answer any questions that folks might have.
Before I start taking up time again. So I was just going to ask, historically, or at least during the time you've been here, and the folks on the commission, does the city get looped in when something like a service territory takeover is going to happen? Like, here's a heads up, you may be getting questions, and this can go to the communication portion of this meeting as well. Like, do we get regular updates? Is that the job of the liaison to bring back because it'll be discussed in a commission meeting? Like, or would having semi-regular joint meetings be helpful where we can talk about projects we're all working on or that are on the horizon, kind of thing?
Sure, when those topics come up, I mean, Michelle and I talk regularly on a large group of things. Yes, there's a lot of stuff that happens. We have talked about this topic at previous joint meetings as well. It has been talked about at the commission meetings in which there has been either a liaison or council representative. And usually those reports did include what was on our agenda, which would include those topics. So I feel like those conversations are happening. If you want more than that, I mean.
I came in late to the game as liaison past things that were happening, so that's why I'm asking going forward.
I think you being liaison has strengthened the communication.
Oh, for sure.
And, in the future,
Big time.
I think if you see a need that we should have a joint meeting on something, or bring it, then yeah. But, I mean, to say that we always should have them, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't know if it would, like, at least having one a year for sure, just to be on.
Which I think has happened in the past, right?
Yeah.
And also, I think conversations between Keith and Michelle, since they're both full-time employees, this is their full-time jobs, them communicating on stuff is relevant. Seems like that's really.
I'm jumping ahead there with that.
Yeah.
I've got a little history that has vastly mild appreciated or compared to all other previous administrators and utility managers. That communication was not there. I mean, like it is today, by no means. So that's a very, very positive for our whole community, having these two in their positions.
But it's also up to us, Jack.
Yeah, we signed the papers.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we didn't have, in my recollection, and I've been around for a while, that wasn't happening like it is today. Which I see as nothing but just strides of improvement and progress.
I can second what Jack is saying.
Yeah, him and I both have a little background, so.
Yeah.
And not that it affected anything, because the public utilities had always ran like a Swiss watch. But there wasn't always the communication like there is today.
Good communication is always good.
It never hurts.
Am I missing in here? I could swear I read something where, like, the potential soon-to-be annexed or whatever future ratepayers get, is there like a public hearing or a meeting they can go to a meeting, obviously, for open forum.
Correct. I mean, the commission meets every month. Those are public meetings. They can always attend those. Once the utilities have a settlement and they file a change with the State Public Utilities Commission, there's also an opportunity there.
That's where it was. Yeah, I thought
So,
I saw something.
Yeah. So the state also offers an opportunity for public comment. And the notification that goes out will include how to submit comments and deadlines and things like that as well.
So just to clarify, so that notice from the Minnesota PUC, that goes to all the existing businesses in the area to be acquired?
So logistically what happens is the old utility gives a customer list to the new utility, and the new utility is to use that as its mail serve. And they send out a form letter that has been approved by the Minnesota Public Utility Commission lawyers, just saying, here's how the process works. So what would happen is, for example, in the East Central Energy case that I mentioned, once we did once we got together and filed a joint petition, East Central Energy gave us the customer list. And then we sent that letter out to each of them well in advance of the filing.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that there is a direct mailing at the time the sort of
The state.
the framework has been agreed to and the state has its
Correct.
determination.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask a follow-up question. Has there ever been an issue or a situation where, that you're aware of, where the Public Utilities Commission, and I'm thinking back to our Baldwin situation where the administrative law judge said, no, Princeton, you don't get your request. So has there ever been a time when the larger state PUC has said no to an acquisition?
Not that I'm aware of.
It just seemed like a good follow-up question.
No, absolutely it is. Usually, it has been my experience that for state regulators, when you have two parties coming before you that have made an agreement, they're not going to say, no. I mean, if all the parties, and so that's why I don't know of any, because usually by the time you get to that point, what the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission is in charge of is the service territory, so they're going to rule on that.
Okay.
So what would the purpose be then of somebody going to the Minnesota PUC hearing?
Well, again, if they want to provide comments, they can. Michelle asked me if I'm aware of any situation in which that was overruled,
Right.
and I'm not aware of it. I'm not saying there hasn't happened, I don't know of any.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't know what the purpose would be then, but
Well, we have to keep
understand what
in
you're
mind,
saying.
they're just starting this process. It's got a long ways to go.
Well,
They're gathering the facts.
we're not talking about that.
We're talking about
That-
the general.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, but I just,
Just out of my curiosity, I thought I read that the municipal utility can look to serve areas within 50 miles,
Yeah, I saw that too.
which was curious to me.
Yeah.
Out of the service territories, because I don't in my head know where, like who our neighboring territories are. Do you or are you aware of any areas besides within the city limits we could be serving?
We already do.
Okay.
So that jumped out at me too, because I wasn't aware of the radius
Yeah.
number. I hadn't seen that before.
Yeah.
50 miles, that's a long way.
Unless I'm just stumbling upon
Well, in our area,
2025
but I
laws.
guess if you're up,
Makes
if
sense
you're
if you live
city
in
north,
Moore Road or some place where there's
yeah.
a lot of distance between municipalities and so forth. I could see how that comes into play.
So some of this is speculation, okay? But what I think happened was, so keep in mind, I mean, we were formed in 1911. So this was before FDR's Rural Electrification Act, which created the co-ops and allowed the farm areas to get electricity. So before that, what you had is, you had the investor owners who snatched up all the metropolitan areas. And then you had cities like Princeton who said, well, we care about our businesses too, so we're gonna, the investor owners didn't care about outstate Minnesota. So outstate Minnesota, with their strong sense of independence, created their own. And so you'd have these little islands of electric service territories. So then what I think happened over time, and like I said, I'm just speculating, is as things grew, and especially after the co-ops came in, the co-ops could have said that area is so far from our last feeder line that it would cost us way too much to run a line all the way up to city limits. So we'll just let you take care of that. I think that's what happened. It had more to do with infrastructure. And I mentioned that in the memo, that sometimes these agreements are purely based off operational reasons. So another example might be, say an industrial customer who needs three-phase service is just outside city limits. The co-op only has a single-phase service through that whole area. And in order to get a three-phase from their nearest substation, which may be 20 miles away, would be prohibitively expensive. And so in that case, the co-op would let the municipal utility serve it even though it's outside. In the old days, that's how things happened. I think it's more common nowadays for the city to simply go to that customer and say, buy the lot, annex it to the city, and then we can serve it. And we don't have that anymore. So I think to a certain extent, that clause is more of a historical thing to explain why we have some of these areas outside of city limits that we serve. But yeah, it's an interesting evolution in how the market, how the service territories evolved over time.
I think to answer the question back, the east of town is,
Northeast, yeah, it's east of the river, up in that area.
Okay, the Silver Lake Road and then old 95 now.
Yeah, that's not in city limits, but we do serve electricity out there.
There's probably nobody alive today that can tell you how that came about. So.
I haven't found the actual documentation on it. Like I said, I'm speculating.
It's always been that way as long as I can, as long as I've been around.
Yeah. My guess is we just had the closest distribution network.
That's for Rick. Well, I suppose you have Princeton Public Utilities in too, at your home place. Anybody else?
The commission, sir? All right.
Okay, I'll move on to, this is 4.3, okay, 4.4.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair, members, I'll take this one as well. Memorandum 26-19 in your packets. What is the process for the sale of a municipal utility? Citing statutes, Minnesota statutes 412.321, specifically subdivision 4, it states that any such utility, they are referencing municipal utilities in this statute, may be leased, sold, or its operation discontinued wholly or in part by ordinance or resolution of the council, approved by 2/3 of the electors voting on the ordinance or resolution at a general or special election. If the utility is under the jurisdiction of a Public Utilities Commission, the ordinance or resolution shall be concurred in by the Public Utilities Commission. Such action may be taken with respect to any specific part of the utility, which part shall be named in the ordinance or resolution, but shall not be necessary to submit the ordinance or resolution to the voters in such case as the action proposed will not result in depriving any customer inside the corporate limits of any type of municipal utility service available before the sale, lease, or discontinuance of operation. And I'm happy to try to answer any questions, even though I'm not a lawyer.
Anybody in the council side have anything?
Nope.
Nope.
Surprise.
We're good. Well, your side. Anybody over, you guys have anything?
Yep, on here.
Okay, move on. Move on to 4.5. What is this?
I guess I'll try to help. I realize this is worded a little awkwardly. Tom, I know you had some questions just on customer inquiries on different billing items. You had mentioned earlier about the utility taking phone calls on sewer and stuff like that.
oh yeah.
That helps jog the memory.
I guess, how should we communicate that to? Should we be calling, Bob, or, the waste management? When we get or should we have them refer to the city council when they call?
No, they don't come to city council, that's what we have staff for.
Some will.
Yeah, I would say any complaints or issues or whatever would go to Michelle, and then she can delegate to who she believes is the proper
Go to
person
the
to
office,
handle it.
whoever, Sean or Mary Lou, will get the call and.
So same
Pass it
way
on.
back from you guys, if there's a problem with the utility or something, you
Pass it
guys
on.
should bring it through
Pass it
Michelle.
on to Chris.
Okay.
And that's clear.
Well, as I said, the same back to you. I hope that if there's a problem with our billing or our duties, that you guys bring it back through Keith.
Somebody's saying the sewer rates are way too high. Our staff shouldn't have to deal with, our staff should have to deal, your staff shouldn't, is the way I want to say it, so.
Yeah.
We volunteered you, Michelle, while you were.
That's okay, all the sewer questions are coming to me anyway, so.
Okay.
Although I will say that our memorandum of understanding on sewer billing does give some autonomy to the billing staff at PUC to adjust bills as seems to be logical. Although Katie at the PUC is pretty good at giving me a heads up. And we work together she gives me the water usage information, and usually the calls are right after the April billing, because people evidently don't look at their water portion to see, well, hey, I used 9 units instead of my normal 2 units. And until they actually see the average on their sewer bill go up, they don't necessarily take action to fix the running toilet or find a leak.
They're not totally aware their water usage dictates their sewer bill and kind of.
Correct. I mean, they get it, but then they're still.
So when they're sprinkling their lawn, they're raising their sewer bill.
No, they're not. Because we do, so sewer is a flat rate the entire year. So basically that flat rate is based on an average of the water usage for December, January, February, and March.
Oh.
So we don't calculate the sewer rate based on summer usage, because for some people that would really skew, we were talking last week, Katie bought a slip and slide for kids and it's using a lot of water. So, we wouldn't want to penalize people for using water that we are not treating. So the point being is that using the winter numbers, it's actually a better representation of what's actually being hitting the sewage treatment plant that has to be treated with chemicals and staff time and those types of things. And people that throw inappropriate things in their toilets or wherever, so.
What?
Well, and Michelle mentioned this, and I think this is an important point. We did put into the memo limitations that, if there are changes which we considered minor administrative, we can just go ahead and do that and take care of that on behalf of the city. But once it hits a certain either duration or volume, because it's impacting your revenues, I wanted to make sure that the city was aware of it. So that's why we put the language in there that way.
So we have a pretty good, and we haven't raised the water or the sewer rates yet. The last time we did it, we just kind of did it really based on trying to make the sewer fund a little more self-sufficient and not have to dip into the sewer reserves as much. So, and that'll lead us to the next conversation about the sewer rate study, which is part of a larger project. I'm not looking to move the conversation on by any stretch of the imagination, so.
Everybody on the council side, okay? Yep. Turned.
Commission side?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, we'll move on to 4.6.
All right, so that one's mine. So in 2025, the council authorized us to do a long-range financial plan. So it's a combination of a number of things. It's looking at reserves, it's looking at our investments, but one of the pieces, and there's a corollary to this, is a water rate study. So this will be done by Northland, and I will say that it's a project that keeps falling off my plate. So in order to not have it fall off the plate anymore, I've committed to having information to Northland by July 1st. And I'll work with Tammy to get an updated schedule based on that. And then I can give the council and the commission a little better target date, because then it can also inform us as we move forward with long-range capital planning. There's still kind of a city hall thing out there. We need to figure that out. There's still, how will the franchise fee renewal and the stormwater management fee kind of loop into that as well, so that's all I can tell you.
I do have a question on that.
Yeah.
Is the city comfortable in doing that water rate study based off of the 2024 data that's already been presented, or do you think we have to update all that? Because that means I have to rerun.
I'll talk to Tammy, but I'm okay with 2024.
Okay, I am as well.
I mean, I think, you know, if we want to add a cost of living increase to that, if that's what Northland thinks we should do without having to do another, I don't want to have you guys do a bunch of extra work. I mean, it'd be different if it was 5 years old, but it's only 2, so. And even then, it's not really even 2, it's a year and a half, so.
Okay. So, Councilor Garrell, just so you know, part of when I talked to Northland about doing all this, one of the questions, because we have this in the wastewater MOU, is we're currently billing the city 75 cents per customer a month for doing the sewer billing. Again, I don't believe that covers our costs, but I would like to have this study to say what that cost really is. So I'm hoping that provides some details to help us better understand that.
And aren't you, if you don't mind me straying a little bit, now that you have your new Cassell, you've talked about, and you have a new general ledger coding.
Just happened today.
Oh, yay!
It all went well, yeah.
And you and I talked a little bit about how you were going to make some adjustments in the coding so that there's more, you have the ability to track information better.
Yes, I think we've completely restructured our general ledger accounts, and I think we created it in a way that we can grow on that to add more transparency to the process.
Yeah, kind of like what we've done on our side, where I completely reworked the budget workbook, and now there's a better relationship between the revenues and the expenditures for each of the departments. And we just keep kind of massaging that based on things that we trip over as either as a staff or questions from the council. I think the fact that we've gone away from the way it used to and we're continuing to utilize the software, our side's getting better in my opinion, but that's just my opinion, so. All right.
No, I would say it's our opinion as well,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah.
Any other questions on this agenda item?
Just a quick one, Michelle, if you submit to them by July 1st, did they give you any inclination of how long it might take?
No, I think it was like a 3 to 4 month process, and I'm hitting them after all of the TIF disclosures need to get to the state and things like that. I haven't reached out to Tammy, but I will get an updated schedule in talking with Tammy, so.
Okay, ready to move on to 4.7?
Commission good?
Commissioners.
Okay.
And is that yours, Keith?
No, that's mine.
Okay.
So we've had a couple of conversations about the transfer of lands that are currently titled in the city's name but have PPU assets on them. The last conversation, I'm gonna look to Shona, that was in November, that we had was that since we had information, and I don't know that we've given you the whole bulk of the information, but PPU has the, so the self-storage lot was purchased tax forfeit. We have the receipts and the canceled checks and I believe canceled checks in there showing that we were reimbursed. The general consensus of the council was that this lot and only this lot can be transferred so that the PPU can move forward. If they are going to do some construction, they'll need to do some quiet title work and some other things in order to make that happen. We have a draft resolution. Damien put that together. It's just been kind of sitting there. I don't know if we need anything formal in regards to closing. I mean, it could happen just as easily with a simple deed approved by the council. So theoretically, this could happen at any time. So in fact, I could put it on the June 11th council agenda. We have all the homework done, so. And we can include all that supplemental information if the council's interested in seeing it as part of the agenda item.
And not to, pat myself on the back too much, but I think I did a draft purchase agreement back in March as well, so just basically everything's pretty much there and ready to go.
Although, do we need a purchase agreement since,
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if land is gonna leave the city and go to another entity, yes, I wanna have a purchase agreement, and it's probably gonna be much lengthier than really is necessary, but that's me.
okay, the attorney has spoken.
But as far as like the closing itself, I agree. I mean, you could probably, if there wouldn't be a need for ECRV or anything that I can think of, it'd just be a transfer, do the deed, get the title transfer, and then they can do what they.
So basically, I don't think we need it. What I'm saying is I don't think we need the expense of a closing company. We can just do the transaction and, okay, purchase agreement, resolution, and a deed.
Sounds like all the heavy lifting's been done. I would have no problem putting it on the agenda.
Okay.
Could go consent for all I care, but it doesn't, whichever way, it doesn't matter to me.
I'll probably, just because there's been discussion, I won't put it on consent. I'll put it on as a formal new business, and we'll provide the background information that Keith was kind enough to share and that Stacy has worked on. I want to give credit where credit is due, so. Okay.
I don't know if this is the right time for asking, but if there were any future considerations of other properties, has there been any research done on that past relationship between whose name is on what? And
It's on the to-do list,
Yeah.
Nick.
yep, I keep,
It's between Stacy and I, my whiteboard, her post-it notes.
Mm-hmm.
And we're probably gonna work backwards, meaning we'll start with the most recent ones.
Probably have the
and-
most luck there.
Yes, and then the farther back in time we get, it's gonna be it'll have to be, maybe it's a discussion here again as a joint meeting, and, but I'm not gonna, I think that's why the council felt super comfortable about this particular parcel, because we did have very recent information. So systematically, my plan would be to start with the most recent, and work our way back. So it might be, instead of a big bulk transfer, it might be one at a time. We just pick the lowest apples off the bottom of the tree and then work our way to the top where we need a bucket truck. I know someone who has one.
Fortunately, we have a bucket truck.
So do we. So do we. It passed its inspection.
Okay, anything else on that?
Nothing anywhere on the commission? Okay.
Okay, so I'll plan to pull stuff, Stacy and I will plan to pull that together for the little help from the union.
Move on to 4.8.
Which is a combination for the PUC. It's a combination of their 8 and 9, because I didn't want to repeat the memo twice. So this is in relation to the franchise and stormwater management fee. I know we've previously called it stormwater utility fee, but management should work, and it'll help kind of maybe keep things more clear on the part of ratepayers. So I wanted to start with how we see the schedule for the 3rd Street reconstruction project, because this is, our infrastructure projects are really driving the need for considering a renewal of the franchise fee and establishment, or I should say, so the stormwater management fee, actually, there was an ordinance that was put in place in 2008. It's just that the city never started collection of the stormwater management fee. So we have something on the books, we've just never collected the dollars. Having said that, the ordinances for both the franchise fee and the stormwater management fee will need to be updated because there's been changes. Obviously, 16 years have passed on the stormwater management fee. And Councilor Taylor, I forwarded your email to Laura and Kevin at WSB. And I got a really long response back from Laura. She's
Sweet.
the expert. So I can get you that information or get the council that information as we proceed with the next steps on that. So getting back to 3rd Street, we have a June 4 bid opening, which is Thursday. The council will see the results of the bid on the 11th, and then on June 17th, it's going to the PUC commission meeting. Tentatively, we think construction will start after July 4th, but until we have a contractor and they do a schedule, that's just our best guess at this point. So moving through the month of June, our engineering firm will be working on the stormwater management fee report. This will include kind of the rationale for how we calculated the fee. Also, Councilor Gerald, I believe you wanted to see information from other cities. That was a request from the last meeting, so that will be included in there. There'll be some draft redlining of the current ordinances. We'll be working on the marketing piece, including Facebook posts. We're currently investigating the cost of a citywide mailing to catch those that aren't on social media. So I don't have numbers back on that yet. The thought is that we do at the July 9th meeting, a presentation of the report and public information sharing. And then after that, things can kind of shuffle around a little bit. This is my most optimistic schedule, but it's not set in stone because we know things might change after that July 9th meeting when we ask the public for comment. There's no requirement for a hearing, but we are going to give people an opportunity to comment. And then, so theoretically, July 23rd, the first reading of the ordinance, August 13th would be the second reading of the ordinances, and then October 1st is a tentative collection date. Keith and I have had some discussions. Obviously, the franchise fee is already on the bill, and it's in place. It's just a matter of adjusting the amounts. However, the stormwater management fee might trigger an evaluation of how the bills look. Is there a second page that kind of puts the stormwater and the sewer together versus the water and electric? So that's yet to be determined, but that's kind of a tentative schedule in terms of how things could lay out if everything goes well. And I've been in public service too long to know that the first plan hardly ever survives. But I needed to get dates out so that we can hit some milestones and some benchmarks, and knowing that we might have to be flexible. And I was trying to avoid known vacations and things like that on the part of the council so that everybody can have an opportunity to hear the information in person, because remote can be difficult.
So I think that July 6th is, or later, for 3rd Street is probably perfect, because I think the fairgrounds are going to be really busy on the 4th with the 250-year celebration. So I would not want that to start any earlier than that.
So yes, I was bummed that we had to push the bid opening out, but you're right. I think there is a reason that stuff happens, and this is probably a reason.
That's my thought, push it out a ways.
Did Oh, sorry.
I didn't
What's the
was there a
timeline
timeline
for the
on
whole
it?
job, Jack? What's the timeline for the whole
Well,
job?
that's, yeah, you read my mind, so.
That's what I was just gonna ask you.
Maybe Bob knows more.
So according to, so first of all, when I talked to Kevin Kruger, our city engineer, about if people have been reaching out to bid this project. And there is a lot of interest based on the phone calls he's receiving because people have work for the first part of the year, but they're looking for fall projects because they don't have them. Kevin feels, weather permitting, weather being nice to us, that we can get the work done between July and October. Maybe we don't have the second lift on, which is what happened with 7th Avenue. And then mop up for like seating and things like that might happen in early 27. But we should be able to do all the utility work and the street base course first layer, or, you know, by the end of the year, or by the end of our, you know, October-ish.
So I've received a lot of calls. There's been a lot of interest from contractors, people coming out of the woodwork that I didn't realize were actually looking at this. And to go to what Michelle was saying, is that I think it's going to be advantageous to have a later bid opening, because if they're looking at a late, they're looking at end of year work, it's going to be, I believe, beneficial to all parties involved with the utility, the city. It's a good sign. I'm always reluctant on an early bid opening because everybody's hungry and they want to get going. But if they're trying to finish out the year, if we don't get the wear course on this year, that's fine. That's really not a big deal to me. And if they come back and do it in the spring and do their seeding in spring of 27, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
So I think that's two things to follow up on what Bob's saying. One, prices should be good, theoretically. And two, there might be more crews working on the project, which means that they'd throw more, theoretically, more manpower and be able to get that done within the timeframe. So yeah, once we get, you know, we'll make sure that everybody, so there'll be pre-construction meetings. Keith's staff is always invited, and because we need to, you know, there's a water component. So once we get a schedule, we'll share that with both bodies to make sure, so that, because I'm sure that, you know, you're at Coburn's and someone goes, hey, when the hell's my street gonna get fixed?
First.
Huh?
The first chance we get.
Yeah.
Call Michelle.
Call Kevin.
The biggest
We are-
question is what's going in the Super America?
We have no clue.
Another question.
So that's tentatively, like I said, first plans usually never survive, but at least I have some benchmarks that we can shoot for. And Kevin and Laura are well aware of these dates, so.
I have a quick question. What would the difference be if we did a stormwater management fee versus like a wheelage kind of tax?
Oh, what?
Wheelage
Wheelage
tax? First of all, I'm not sure that cities are allowed to do a wheelage tax.
So counties can do it?
Counties can do it, and I believe only counties can do it, but I will verify that.
Okay.
Because I don't want to be speaking out of a different part of my body, as the saying goes. But I'll ask Kevin and those guys. So, you know, again, we could, so there's different, you know, there's the stormwater management fee, there's the franchise fee, there's a local option sales tax. However, none of the local option sales taxes that were proposed by cities survived the last legislative session. And they've changed the process such that if you propose a local option sales tax, it has to be for something of regional significance. So how they define that is, it's a, a regional community center, or it's
Football
a.
stadium.
Yeah, that,
Fairground.
yeah. I'd love to have money for that, but, anyway, but I'll ask about the village tax, but I'm pretty sure it's limited to counties.
And that's generally collected on license fees, so the driver's license, not driver's license, vehicle license.
Yeah.
The ones I'm aware of anyways.
I'm trying to think of how they're collected, so.
Well, when you buy your license for your car, you pay
Yeah.
village tax,
So,
a line item on that.
but I will verify.
Yeah, so I know like other cities do like a city tax.
Yep.
Because we had a business in town that was charging a $1 city tax.
Yeah, and
Like,
actually that was.
we don't have a city
Yeah.
tax.
Yeah, and actually I did before Dylan left Mille Lacs County, I did verify with him, and they do collect the sales tax. And he and I both came to the conclusion that she just labeled it wrong. It was supposed to be the county tax.
Yeah, but some cities do have a city
Correct.
tax.
There's I think Elk River has a tax.
Cambridge, I think, does.
Yeah,
Those, I believe.
I'd have to reach out to them to figure out when they implemented it and what they're using the funds for.
Yeah, I was gonna ask
Yep.
if you know if there's like limitations to what those funds can be used for?
I think it's part of your, when I look at the legislative reports that come out through the League of Minnesota Cities and previous to the change in the law, the cities, when they propose it, have to propose what they're used for. I'll have to do some digging, and I can probably reach out to the League of Minnesota Cities.
Maybe it's kind of an option where the local option sales tax, the cities have that option to have just a city tax.
Well,
It's kind of
a local sales tax, you can request it, it takes special legislation, but it also, they've changed it. Before you could just say, hey, we're gonna put a 0.25% sales tax on, and that's gonna go into our capital reserves for, say, street improvements to pay for that portion which isn't eligible for state aid funding. Now you can't just say that, you have to, it has to be a regional, something of regional significance. I will dig up the
well, that's what I'm
statute.
saying, maybe having the city have the ability to just not have to go through that process to justify another tax.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm not saying it quite right.
yeah, I think once you start getting into sales taxes, it starts getting
Well,
messier.
But this doesn't call it a sales tax. If a city, is that what you're saying?
City tax, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not called a
Well,
sales
I
tax.
think the reason some do is because we have all kinds of counties and other people coming into our city and using our roads and all that stuff, and
That has been the argument I've been making with Mille Lacs County, is
So.
it's falling on deaf ears. That we are a small regional hub.
yeah.
Was my point when we went out at the county, look at all the money generated from Walmart and
Yep,
go there to the county.
Yeah.
Nobody seemed to care, but
I'll see if LMC has a list of current city sales taxes and, what their purpose was and when they were implemented.
How much do they gain off it?
Well, on a sales tax, it depends. Every city's different. I mean, some cities are 0.25%, some cities are 0.5%. I mean, when we do our liquor store, we have to pay, we pay sales tax on the liquor store funding or purchase, sales, and, there's a 0.05% tax that goes to Lawrence County.
Yeah.
So,
I know our store paid what we pay.
yep. So, I mean, I know in the county started talking about their wheelage tax and their local option sales tax. I mean, they can run, because there is information at the state level about retail sales in various jurisdictions. They were able to run an estimated amount that they would get based on sales within the county. So.
Anybody have anything else?
I had one quick question, just as far as the communication of the franchise fees and stuff. Where are we, I mean, is that something we'll discuss further, or we kind of just agree that it's gonna be all those roads that we've mentioned as far as communicating to customers?
Well, that'll be, I mean, that's kind of part of the overall Facebook posting and inviting people to come in and talk about the, why we're doing it. That's why we're gonna have an informational meeting before the council, so that people can come and ask their questions and say, well, where are you gonna spend the money now? We've talked about at the council level, adding $1 to the center point fee on the residential side to make that an even amount, so that we can put about $32,000 into the park improvement fund on an annual basis. The rest of it, we'll work with the WSB to put together kind of our estimated costs for those future road improvements and things like that. Ultimately, it will go into the capital reserve. Some of it might not get used on roads. Some of it might end up getting used on some type of other capital expense. I mean, I don't know exactly, but that's the intent. Is really, it's been geared for the road infrastructure,
Right.
Is what it's been geared for.
The big thing there is, I just know that's something we're all gonna get questions about.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
On all
That's
sides.
probably why they never implemented it
Right.
after they first originally put it together, would be my guess.
Well, and I understand that some folks might feel that it's hidden tax. Well, it's not a hidden tax. It's very specifically stated on a utility bill, whether it's the stormwater utility or the franchise fee. The alternative is, do we continue to kick the can down the road when it comes to infrastructure improvements, whether it's sewer, water, well, not water so much because there's a different funding source for that, but sewer, streets, buildings, etc. I mean, we have a 10-year capital plan that the staff continues to add to, and the bills are coming due. I mean, whether it's a new roof on the public safety building, it's a new sweeper in public works, it's, whatever. I mean, you're either gonna pay for it, I don't mean to sound callous, but you're either gonna pay for it via stormwater management fee or a franchise fee, or the capital reserve levy on the capital reserve amount on the levy is gonna go up. And then that's fighting with all of the other expenses in terms of insurance and wages. And we have to make sure that we're competitive so that, we're very lucky that we have a very stable demographic in terms of our staffing levels. And part of that is we've maintained as much as we can for a city of our size and our tax base. We've maintained a competitive wage rate, and there's the desire on the council to make sure that we are to the best of our ability covering the insurance costs. And then there's the whole culture. I mean, I think we have really good department heads and really great staff, and the community is very, very supportive of whether it's utilities or the council activities. The whole community is very supportive of what we do here. But unfortunately, all of this comes at a cost.
Well, and you mentioned we can't kick the can down the road anymore, or we could, but we shouldn't,
Correct.
because we have clay sewer pipes under a lot of our streets that are, once they collapse, it costs a lot more than if we pay for it up front and just do it all right.
Yeah,
Before.
I mean, the question becomes, do you want to be proactive or do you want to be reactive? And a reactive response is always going to cost you a heck of a lot more than a proactive one.
Well, and it's way overdue already. So I'm in my 8th year on council, and ever since I got on, I've been like touting that we need to think about this. We need to start planning for it. We need to figure out how we're going to pay for this. And so I just think it's really important before it becomes a huge problem.
And what you're gonna hear from the cynics is, and they're not totally wrong, well, it's just another tax with a different name. Well, it is really.
It's money out of residents' pockets, but it's
But
benefits that they
I
receive
guess,
in terms of quality of their city. And
property taxes, we can't just keep dumping everything on property taxes. That has to come to an end. We have to figure out different avenues of funding for these projects. Granted, residents pay for it, but who else is gonna pay for it? I don't have a big enough checkbook, so.
Well, and it's unfortunate that at the state level, you know, the legislature, when you look at the grant dollars that are available, every grant dollar that they want to issue drives, well, are you doing new construction for new businesses, for new jobs? It's like, well, that's well and good, but you still have cities out there that are, you know, like the city of Princeton were established in the late 1800s, and they have infrastructure that in some cases might be that old. And you need to, I mean, that infrastructure replacement is still supporting jobs that are in existence. You know, if we don't have good sewer and water services to our industrial parks, well, then we have businesses who can't function, and then now we have people who can't go to work because their company can't function. So it's frustrating with the way that the legislature looks at this stuff sometimes, so I'll get off my soapbox now.
Okay, anybody got anything else?
we're on the commission side.
So, no.
Motion to adjourn?
Any motion?
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
guys as well.
Oh, guys, we
We need a motion about.
I made the motion.
I don't know.
Are you second?
I second.
All in favor?
All right, Brad.